their skill sets that they're praised about?
Well, I think a huge strength of a player is versatility. And it's going to happen that way in the draft. Andrew and I were talking about that in the draft room of why certain linemen go higher in the draft than others. Is it a center only? Is it a guard only? Is it a tackle? We don't see their body type as a guard. Obviously, tackles are going to go sooner, versatility-wise.
Did you hear what Todd Monken just said? Did you catch that? He sat in front of those cameras, cool as a cucumber, and told the entire NFL world exactly what time it is in Cleveland. That doesn't mean equal reps. There has to be some form of a depth chart per se. The man said per se, that is not coach speak. That is a head coach politely announcing in the most professional way possible that Shedeur Sanders is the guy, Deshaun Watson is the backup insurance policy, and Dylan Gabriel and Taylor Green are going to be fighting over the scraps of whatever reps are left at the bottom of the rotation. I am Dre Fiver. This is Overtime Reports, and we are cracking this whole situation wide open right now. Let's get into it. The 2026 NFL draft just ended, and the Cleveland Browns did not just win their draft room. According to multiple analysts and former players, they won the entire draft. And while the national media is busy celebrating the picks on paper, Dre Fiver is here to tell you what those picks actually mean for the guys already in the building. Because somebody is losing their job. Somebody is getting traded, and somebody just had the best week of their young NFL career without even knowing it yet. We are talking Shedeur Sanders getting his weapons. We are talking Dylan Gabriel's job being on life support. We are talking Cedric Tillman watching his future in Cleveland evaporate in real time. And we are talking about the deeper question, the one the insiders are finally willing to say out loud, about whether Paul DePodesta was the anchor that was dragging this entire organization down for years. Sit down, let us work. Let us start at the top, because the reaction coming out of the analyst community after this draft has been nothing short of extraordinary for a Cleveland Browns fan base that has been starving for something to believe in. Former cornerback and NFL analyst Aqib Talib broke it all the way down on his platform, and he was not subtle about it. Talib gave Andrew Berry an A+, not an A, not an A-, an A+.
Yeah, as a head coach, what's his experience?
Well, we were jacked. I mean, to be able to move back 3 spots, pick up a third and a fifth, what a great job by Andrew, and get the player we targeted the whole time. And, I mean, we couldn't be any more excited, and still have another pick later on tonight. Targeted Spencer. He said his character was first. I mean, the way he's wired. I think the expectations that we'll have for him won't even match that he has for himself. And his athleticism, his toughness. I mean, when you want to start off the first year of your regime, I mean, when you talk about what you want, character, toughness, athleticism, he has it all.
And the reasoning he laid out is exactly what Dre Fiver has been saying since day one of draft weekend. On Spencer Fano, Talib said, and this is a former player who has faced elite offensive linemen his entire career, that Fano is a really, really good offensive lineman. He studied the tape specifically to figure out how much protection Fano could add, and what he found was a player who is light on his feet but has what Talib called clubs for hands. When Fano gets his hands on a pass rusher, according to Talib, you are dead. That is as strong an endorsement as you are going to get from a defensive player evaluating an offensive lineman. And it matters enormously for Shedeur Sanders because, as reported across every major NFL outlet covering this draft, the Browns' offensive line ranked last on Pro Football Focus last season. Last. In the entire league. You can give a quarterback all the receivers in the world, but if he is running for his life every single snap, none of it matters. Then Talib pivoted to the wide receiver additions, and this is where the analysis gets really interesting. On Casey Concepcion, Talib was emphatic, calling him a player who can win quick screens, quick outs, quick slams, and go deep on top of defenses. He even noted that at 6 feet and 200 pounds, Concepcion could play as the ex-receiver if the coaching staff wanted to deploy him that way, and the production numbers back it up. As Talib pointed out, Concepcion had 1,000 yards from scrimmage and 10 touchdowns in 2 out of his 3 college seasons, finishing his career with 28 touchdowns. 28. And as Talib noted with genuine disbelief, Concepcion had more touchdowns than Jordan Tyson, more touchdowns than Carroll Tate, and more touchdowns than Mekhi Lemon, the 3 receivers who were getting all the pre-draft hype, yet Concepcion still fell to pick 24. That is either a massive steal or a massive indictment of how the draft media was covering this class. Dre Fiver is going with massive steal, and Emmanuel Acho echoed everything Talib said, going further to declare flat out that the Browns won the draft. Not just did well, won it. Acho specifically praised the back-to-back nature of Cleveland's success, saying 2 years in a row of great drafts is a sign that something real is being built in Cleveland. That kind of validation from analysts of that caliber does not come easy, and it does not come to franchises that are just getting lucky. Now here is something Mad Dog TV pointed out that I want to amplify because it is not getting enough attention in the national conversation. Talib specifically noted that KC Concepcion is not just a wide receiver, he is also going to be the Browns' punt returner. Think about what that means for a second. The Browns just drafted a first-round wide receiver who can also change field position as a return specialist. That is 3 roster functions in one player: wide receiver, punt returner, potentially kick returner. When you are building an NFL roster under a hard salary cap, that kind of positional versatility is worth its weight in gold. Andrew Berry did not just draft a receiver at 24. He drafted a chess piece that Monken can move around the board in ways that will keep defensive coordinators up at night. And that brings us to Denzel Boston, because Boston is the piece of this puzzle that completes the picture around Shedeur Sanders. As Talib noted, Boston may have the best hands in the entire 2026 draft class. Talib was honest. He said he does not love Boston's game in the sense that Boston does not always look special on tape. But he also acknowledged that sometimes the most reliable receivers in the NFL are not the ones who look like highlights waiting to happen. They are the ones who catch everything thrown their way and win in contested situations. And at 6'4" and 212 pounds, Boston is going to be a problem in the red zone. As reported by Dogs by Nature, Boston had 11 touchdowns in his final college season with the Washington Huskies. Shedeur Sanders' accuracy is well documented. You put a 6'4" contested catch machine on the outside and pair him with a quarterback who can place the ball in the exact spot only his receiver can get it, that is a match made in offensive heaven. Talib summed it up best when he said what the Browns gave Shedeur Sanders is immediate juice. Immediate, not developmental, not wait and see. Immediate juice. Concepcion can get open right now. Fano can protect right now. Boston can win jump balls right now. This is not a roster being built for 2028. This is a roster being built to compete in 2026. And Shedeur Sanders is the centerpiece of every single decision that was made this weekend. Now, let us talk about Todd Monken's press conference answer, because Dre Fiver has watched it multiple times and there is more in those words than most people are picking up on. A reporter asked Monken directly whether he was comfortable holding a 4-way quarterback competition while also giving all the young quarterbacks enough reps to develop. And Monken's answer was measured, deliberate, and crystal clear to anyone who has been paying attention to how elite head coaches communicate. He said, and I am quoting directly here, "At any position, that doesn't mean equal reps. There has to be some form of a depth chart. Per se, everybody has a chance to compete. They just aren't always going to get equal reps." Now decode that with me. Monken is telling you that Shedeur Sanders is going to get the lion's share of the reps. He is telling you that there is already a pecking order in that room, even if he is not going to name it publicly in April. He is telling you that Tylen Green, the 6th-round pick, is going to get what Mad Dog TV described as a little bit here and there. And he is telling you implicitly that Dillon Gabriel is somewhere in the middle of a depth chart that does not have room for him to grow into a starting role. Mad Dog TV broke it down exactly right. Shedeur Sanders gets most of the reps, Deshaun Watson follows, Gabriel gets what is left over, and Green gets sprinkled in where Monken can use his athleticism creatively, potentially in wildcat packages or design runs that keep defenses honest. This is not a 4-man competition, this is a 1-man show with 3 supporting actors, and the star of that show has been known since the moment the 2025 season ended, with Sanders taking over and giving Cleveland fans a glimpse of what this offense can look like when the right quarterback is on the center. Now let us get to the situation that is not getting talked about enough. Dillon Gabriel and what his future actually looks like in Cleveland, now that Monken has essentially told the world the reps are not going to be equal. As reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Browns have no current plans to trade Gabriel. Andrew Berry himself said the plan is to roll with all 4. But Berry also said, and this is the part that matters, "I can't predict if something else comes up." That qualifier is doing an enormous amount of work in that sentence. Here are the facts about Gabriel's rookie season that you need to hold in your head. As reported by Sharp Football Analysis, out of 45 quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks last season, Gabriel ranked 37th in passer rating at 80.8. He averaged 5.1 yards per pass attempt, 44th on that list. He was also 44th in air yards per throw at 5.8. The man went 1-5 as a starter, and then Shedeur Sanders took over and the conversation in Cleveland shifted immediately. When a quarterback controversy ends that decisively, it does not reverse itself. The Browns drafted Gabriel ahead of Sanders in the 2025 draft. That fact alone should have given Gabriel more organizational momentum. But here is what the tape said. And in the NFL, the tape always wins eventually. Gabriel was not making the throws that a starting quarterback in Todd Monken's offense needs to make. He was not creating explosive plays. He was not moving the chains with consistency. And when Sanders stepped in, the difference was visible enough that the decision essentially made itself. Now, Gabriel is behind Sanders, behind Watson in terms of contract obligations, and as a 6th-round rookie breathing down his neck who runs a 4.3640 and broke 2 combine records. As reported by Dogs by Nature, if the Browns carry 3 quarterbacks, which is the league standard, Gabriel's path to the active roster just got dramatically more complicated. Dre Favre's verdict on Gabriel: I give him a 40% chance of being on this roster when the regular season opens. That might even be generous. And here is the thing. It is not personal. Gabriel seems like a good person and a hard worker. But this is a business, and the Browns are no longer operating like a franchise that carries veterans out of loyalty. They are operating like a team with a plan, and right now that plan does not have a clear role for Dillon Gabriel. And then there is Cedric Tillman. And I want to say this plainly and without drama because the situation speaks for itself. Tillman was drafted by the Browns in the 3rd round of the 2023 NFL Draft. He has now had 3 full seasons in Cleveland to establish himself as a legitimate contributor in this offense. And as reported by Pro Football Network, he has never surpassed 350 receiving yards in any of those 3 seasons, not once. 3 years, 3 chances. 3 times he came up short of what a 3rd-round receiver investment is supposed to deliver. Now, Andrew Berry has brought in Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. In the first 2 rounds, Jerry Jeudy is the established veteran in the room. Isaiah Bond averaged nearly 19 yards per reception as an undrafted free agent last season. That is 4 receivers ahead of Tillman before you even account for Tylan Wallace or Jamari Thrash fighting for their own roster spots. And as reported by Zach Jackson of The Athletic, Tillman is now a summertime trade candidate. The word Jackson used, the specific word, was that the Browns are stuck with Jerry Jeudy for at least 1 more year. He did not use the word stuck for Tillman. He used the word trade candidate. That is a meaningful distinction. The financial picture makes it even cleaner. As reported by 247 Sports, Tillman's cap number is $3.6 million for 2026, the final year of his rookie contract. $3.6 million for a wide receiver 4 who cannot crack 350 yards in a season. In an NFL where every dollar matters and every roster spot is contested, that number is going to force a decision. Either Tillman dramatically outperforms everyone around him in training camp and the preseason, or the Browns find a trade partner willing to send back a late-round pick and move on from the experiment. Dre Favre is betting on option 2, strongly. Now let us zoom all the way out to the biggest story underneath all of these stories, because what we are really talking about, what the transcript from Mad Dog TV was dancing around, what the ESPN Cleveland analysts were openly debating, what every Browns insider has been whispering for the past 6 months, is whether Paul DePodesta was the reason this franchise underperformed for so long. And whether his departure is the real explanation for why Andrew Berry suddenly looks like one of the best general managers in the NFL. DePodesta left the Browns in November to return to baseball with the Colorado Rockies. He had spent nearly 10 years in Cleveland as chief strategy officer. And in those 10 years, as reported by Browns Nation, the franchise had one of the most underwhelming stretches in modern NFL draft history, culminating in the catastrophic Deshaun Watson trade that cost 3 first-round picks and set the organization back half a decade. DePodesta was reportedly one of the primary architects of that trade. And going even further back, as reported by multiple credible insiders, DePodesta allegedly pushed for the Browns to take quarterback Mitchell Trubisky over Myles Garrett with the number 1 overall pick in 2017. I want you to sit with that for a moment. The man reportedly wanted to pass on Myles Garrett. The greatest defensive player in Browns history was almost never a Brown because of analytics. And then DePodesta leaves. And suddenly, Barry is drafting like a man possessed. Veteran insider Tony Grossi told ESPN Cleveland that being freed from DePodesta's supervision opened Barry up to different ideas, and that the addition of Tom Telesco, Barry's former boss and a genuine football-first executive, brought exactly the kind of complimentary voice that the draft room was missing. And Rizzo, another ESPN Cleveland voice, was blunter than anyone. He said he did not even fully understand what DePodesta did in that building, but the last two drafts with no DePodesta involvement looked phenomenal. Not good. Phenomenal. Now, Dre Fiverr is going to be fair because that is what this channel does. Andrew Berry did not have first-round picks for 3 consecutive years during a significant stretch of his tenure. You cannot build through the draft without draft picks. That is not analytics, that is arithmetic. And some of those middling draft classes during the DePodesta era may have been more about limited resources than poor decision-making. But here is what you also cannot explain away. The moment Berry gains full control of his own process, back-to-back draft classes that Mel Kiper Jr. graded an A+ and an A respectively. The 2025 class produced Defensive Rookie of the Year Carson Schlesinger and meaningful contributions from all 7 picks. The 2026 class already has analysts calling it a potential home run class before the players have taken a single NFL snap. 2 drafts, 2 elite grades, 0 DePodesta involvement. You draw your own conclusions. Let me bring this all the way home because Dre Fiverr does not leave you hanging without the full picture. The Cleveland Browns just had the best draft weekend in recent franchise history, and I do not think that is a controversial statement anymore. Spencer Fano at left tackle gives Shedeur Sanders protection he has never had. KC Concepcion at wide receiver gives Sanders an immediate proven playmaker who can function as his primary weapon in the short and intermediate game. Denzel Boston gives Sanders a red zone monster who can win contested catches in situations where the game is on the line. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren gives the defense a ball hawk at safety who had 4 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions in his final college season. And Taylor Green gives Todd Monken a wildcat weapon who will keep opposing defensive coordinators permanently off balance. That is 5 players across 3 days of the draft who each address a specific well-documented need in a specific well-considered way. There was no reaching, there was no panic, there was no overthinking, as Aqib Talib put it best. And this is from a man who has been around championship level football his entire adult life. This was about competition breeding excellence. Berry built a receiver room with multiple different skill sets. He built an offensive line with multiple different tools. He gave Todd Monken a quarterback room with a clear number 1 and enough depth to develop behind him without throwing anyone into the fire too early. Here are Dre Fiverr's final verdicts going into the offseason. Shedeur Sanders is locked in as the QB1. That competition is not real. Monken already told you, equal reps are not the plan. Sanders is the franchise quarterback, and this draft was built entirely around making his 2026 season as successful as possible. Dillon Gabriel has a 40% chance of being on this roster when week 1 kicks off, and that number might be generous depending on how Taylor Green looks in training camp. Cedric Tillman is getting traded. I will be shocked if he is in a Browns uniform past July. And Andrew Berry is finally getting the recognition he deserved all along, now that he has the room to operate the way his instincts have always told him to. 2 years in a row, this man has walked into the draft and walked out with a class that the entire league is talking about. The players still have to put on the pads and prove it. But the foundation being built in Cleveland right now is the most legitimate thing this franchise has had going for it since the early days of the Baker Mayfield era. And unlike that era, this one comes with an offensive line. This one comes with actual receivers, and this one comes with a head coach in Todd Monken who has proven he can build elite offenses at the highest level. Cleveland, the rebuild is not coming. The rebuild is here, and Shedeur Sanders is standing in the middle of it with reinforcements finally arriving on every side. Dre Fiverr is watching 2026 with a completely different energy than he watched 2025. And you should be too. That is all for today on Overtime Reports. If you are not subscribed to this channel yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button right now because we are not slowing down on this Browns coverage for a single second. Smash that like button if you think Shedeur Sanders has a Pro Bowl season in 2026 with these new weapons around him. Drop a comment below and tell me, does Cedric Tillman get traded before training camp, or does he somehow survive the cuts? I want to hear from you, and share this video with every Browns fan in your life because they need to know what just happened this weekend. I am Dre Fiverr. This is Overtime Reports. We will see you on the next one.